Let's call the meeting to order. We're having an exceptional, what we call a super committee. It is a combination of all the committees, and there's a reason, which is that there's a topic that we want to make sure we get into in detail, which is fair collection and fair evasion. And it cuts across all of our committees. So today, we're having a joint meeting of all the major committees: New York City Transit, Railroads, Bridges and Tunnels, and the Capital Committee, to talk about fair collection and fair evasion. So with that opening, let me turn it over to the moderators, Mr. Booter, I see, Mr. Flynn, to conduct the public comment period.
Good morning. We have 17 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. Our first speaker is John Padulla, followed by Robert Whittaker.
All right. Good morning, folks. My name is John Padulla. I'm a supervisor with Educational Vision Services from New York City Public Schools. I'm also a member of the Advisory Committee for Transit Accessibility. Haven't been here in a while, but my platform, my agenda is always the same. I just want to make sure everybody knows I am here representing New York City Public School children that have disabilities, not just blindness, but a range of disabilities. And you've probably heard me say it 1,000 times, to mitigate disability, we need real choices and equitable access. And there's just 2 aspects of paratransit that I want to focus on quickly. Taxi authorizations, a great resource, a great way to mitigate disability and give people real choices. Borough lines are an artificial barrier. There's got to be a way to do an intra-borough taxi authorization. That being said, that department definitely needs more resources. They've been doing great, but the lead time to get reimbursement is hitting 12 to 14 weeks, and I think 4 to 6 weeks is standard for any sort of turnaround in business. But once we start approaching 3 or 4 months, I think they're drowning in receipts, and I think they need more resources to help that do a great job that they continue doing a great job that they've been doing. Finally, a lot of you privately have heard me say that oversight with eligibility and a lot of aspects of paratransit is vital, because it's an expensive service, but it's a vital service, and we have to be diligent and responsible with those resources. I am concerned, though. I have a 12-year-old boy who's legally blind that was refused reauthorization of Accessoride, and I'm not sure who was conducting that assessment, and I'm not sure what happened there, but clearly there was a disconnect. He's registered as legally blind with New York State, and they got it wrong, and we need to make it right. Again, 12-year-old, totally blind. I don't know how he was refused eligibility, but I'd like to have that conversation. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
The next speaker is Robert Whittaker, followed by Mark Sakamagno.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Robert Whitica. I'm a local 100 bus operator living and working out of Brooklyn. Last month I was here to address everyone here when it comes to safety and support of your workers. I'm now an injured worker forced out by your own doctors here. It would be nice if you guys would not lie on workers' current documents that my caseworker has done numerous times on C11 reports here. Support your workers. Mr. Critchlow, in your message here, you say support and protect your employees. Your bus operators are certainly not protected out there, and you certainly don't support your workers that are out injured. I'm currently out here, first up by your own doctors here, and I'm still 30 days have yet to receive a pay. But on paperwork here, your caseworkers clearly indicate that I have not lost any wages here. I can't pay my bills, take care of my family here without being paid. So please support your workers by paying them appropriately and also getting the appropriate care that they need. Thank you.
The next speaker is Mark Sakamagno, followed by Anna Humphreys.
Good morning. My name is Mark Sakamagno, and I'm a bus operator from the Elmo Park Depot in Brooklyn. On July 8th of last year, I was hurt on the job inside the depot. I fractured 2 bones in my right foot. I was taken from the depot by ambulance and spent a week in a hospital and 5 weeks in a rehab facility. Since that time up until now, I haven't been paid at all by transit. I took the case to the court and won in November. I was supposed to receive my payment and medical treatment, but instead the lawyers from transit went and appealed the case. The case has been sitting in the Court of Appeal since December, with a backlog of 6 to 8 months, maybe more. I have no family to help me. I am in jeopardy of being evicted from my home because I can't pay my rent. My lights may also be turned off, and to top that, today, my phone was turned off. This is the 4th time I am speaking in front of you guys, and nothing has been done. Transit has ruined my life. The treatment I am getting from you is inhumane. You people don't worry about us, especially when we are hurt on the job. You treat us like a piece of trash thrown out to rot. As my employer, when I get hurt on the job, you are supposed to provide me medical treatment so I could get better and come back to work. Also, you're supposed to be giving my pay. Neither of this has been done. You heard my story here before, but instead of somebody coming to me and seeing if there is anything they could do to help me, nobody does anything. You just let everything go over your heads. You know, try to have a heart. Somebody come up and try to help me. I sit at home and I'm stressed out. Nothing's being done for me. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Anna Humphrey, followed by Iris Kelly.
Good morning. My name is Anna Humphrey, and I'm the Transportation Community Organizer at the Center for Independence of the Disabled in New York. I want to bring to your attention 2 concerns we continue to hear from Access-a-Ride users. First, riders who are blind or have low vision still face serious barriers when drivers fail to provide proper call-out and assist services. We regularly hear complaints that drivers do not exit their vehicles to locate and assist riders, even though this is a basic requirement. This puts blind and low vision riders at serious risk, and it's unacceptable. The MTA must ensure that providers comply with Access-a-Ride policies, and companies that don't meet these standards should not be contracted. Second, we continue to hear reports of language barriers between drivers and riders. When riders cannot communicate effectively with riders with disabilities, it creates confusion, danger, and even missed trips. Riders need to be able to clearly communicate about pickup locations and other trip details. We urge the MTA to take further steps to address these ongoing issues and hold service providers accountable. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Iris Kelly, followed by Michael Ring.
Thank you. Okay, I'm here to report, give you a report card of your service of how I felt between January 2023 and February 2023, thereon, how things are coming. January, you had an A+. Many things you did right for Brooklyn, which is great. We had our own trains going into Long Island. We had that change every time. We had a digital sign. We'd be able to see this. And then the connections between tracks 2 and 3, which was great. Always good connections. But things changed. After that, in February 2023, it all went down. No digital sign for us to be able to see it. It's all sky high. You can't even read it for people visually impaired and short people. The trains can't go into Brooklyn to Manhattan, Long Island. We had to switch every time to Jamaica. And then coming home to get those connections, had to go from track 2 to track 12, which takes time to get across. Now, in the weeknight, there's one at 10:04 coming from Long Island, the Penn Station train, The Brooklyn train going out is 10:04. Now that's not right. That should be lined up together. I don't care if tracks 23 or which way you want to set it up, but we can be able to make our connection both ways. If not, at least make the 10:04 to 10:10. This way, at least be able to have time to get over to get our connection on track 12. And I mean, this is getting ridiculous. You shouldn't be treating people like this in Brooklyn. We have equally just as important as your people, or everything in Manhattan. That's got to stop. Thank you.
The next speaker is Michael Ring, followed by Alita Dupri.
Good morning. My name is Michael Ring. For anyone who needs a verbal description of my appearance, I'm a 61-year-old white guy wearing a hoodie. My hat says Disabled in Action. That's the organization I'm representing today. I'm also chair of the Accessible Transit Advisory Committee. I didn't know what I was going to talk about today, but I sat through the previous committee meeting, and I heard a lot of talk about policing and security and cameras. And it really made me feel jealous because I came here to talk about elevators. And there's so many cameras, so many police, and I feel very safe on the subway. And this is a cycle between fear-mongering and feeling of safety and what we need to do. And maybe if some of that effort was put into maintaining the elevators, because that's what we were outside posting about today, that the elevators aren't maintained. 43 of them are out today. No one's really sure which ones. People who need an elevator to get on the subway aren't going on the subway. There's a few exceptions, but you can't get, if you have a job in the city and you live in Brooklyn and you use a wheelchair or you need an elevator, you're not taking the subway. You're leaving a unproductive, isolated life because this transit system is not accessible to people who use wheelchairs. I always think like the gold standard, what you should be shooting for is like this building. Everybody took the elevator to get here. One or two of those elevators might be broken. We wouldn't even know because there's so many and they work. Big cities rely on elevators for people to work in big buildings. It's an old system. It's a lot of work, but we really need to get more elevators in and get them to work. Where the fact that we're not getting a settlement in our lawsuit means that there's more elevator insecurity. So people are staying home instead of going to work. And thank you.
The next speaker is Alita Dupri, followed by August Halt.
Thank you, Chair Jano Lieber and members. Alita Dupri for the record sheet, her with Team Folds. Brought you some Grand Central Terminal today. I got to celebrate my most recent birthday at the Oyster Bar at my last visit to New York just last month. This is a big meeting, and thank you for bringing it forth as a joint meeting. And I'm going to talk about fair payment. That's really what the agenda shows. And fair payment is very, very important and dear to me, especially in my time in New York of using the subway frequently and taking advantage of all the benefits that come from using Omni on my phone, including reduced fare embedded in my phone. So thank you for that. I have been monitoring and looking toward what we will do with next generation fare payment on our commuter rails. And yes, I do use train time. I like train time. It works for me. I've never had a problem with it, but not everybody has a phone. If you do have a phone, you should use train time. But I am looking toward the next generation of fare payment at what different systems are doing. And I also read about some other affiliated systems that we want to bring Omni into. And I hope that we can bring that into its fullness, because I would like to be able to use systems on a regional basis without having to get paper tickets or deal with the use of cash. So I look forward to our summit meeting today and what we're going to talk about. Thank you.
The next speaker is August Holt, followed by David Cufferberg.
Good morning. My name is August Hoyt, and I'm representing Transportation Alternatives Youth Actives Committee. I live in Prospect Efforts Gardens and attend Bard High School Early College, Manhattan. As a result of my time using the Student Omni program and watching my peers use the program, I strongly believe that it needs to be expanded and made more accessible and equal. The switch from Metro cards to Omni cards has been a huge improvement for students' transportation, but much can still be done to improvement, as right now, the system of tracking students' Omni cards is unjust and unequal, with virtually no information given as to the restrictions of Omni cards and why they are being shut down. All that I and my peers were told is that we were being given more rides on our new tap cards at the start of the year. Yet as our cards were being shut down, faculty were telling us that all of a sudden, they could only be used for trips between home and school. There are also plenty of ways for students to follow these unclear rules about only usage between home and school being permitted, but still have their Omni cards deactivated. One of my peers told me that his card was deactivated 4 times throughout the year as a result of him having divorced parents and having to commute to 2 different homes, as well as for using it to travel to school-related extracurriculars, such as school sports. He's now told that if his card is shut down again, the school will have no more replacement cards and he'll have to pay out of pocket for the rest of the year. Both of these uses should fall within the boundaries of what the Omni cards are allowed to be used for, according to what school faculty has told me, yet they still result in card deactivations, and in this case, students either paying out of pocket or being unawares of the rules surrounding the cards because they were never told them, or using them for school-related purposes, which still result in card shutdowns due to their own specific needs when it comes to getting to school-related activities. Students who live too close to school to receive an Omni card, and students who have reached their full ride cap are also unfairly hurt by the current system. While students whose primary address is less than a half mile from school may not always be taking public transit to school, however, they may need to commute to different homes besides the one listed at their primary address.
Thank you for your comment. The next speaker is David Cufferberg, followed by Jesse Figarero.
As part of the Queens Bus Network redesign, no one should have to pay double fares in order to travel to the subway. For example, there should be 3-legged transfers between the Q82 to the Q110 to the E train at Jamaica Center. Also, people traveling between Eastern Queens and the Rockaway should also not have to pay a double fare. For example, any route to the Q77 to the Q113/Q114, and any route to the Q113/Q114 to the Q22. People should not have to pay double fare when traveling between Eastern Queens and Green Acres Mall. For example, any route to the Q77 to the proposed Q87 or proposed Q89, or on weekends to the Q5. Also, such transfers are not yet posted on the MTA website's Queens Bus Network redesign page. Double fares are not right and should be significantly reduced within Queens as part of the Queens Bus Network redesign. Thank you.
The next speaker is Jesse Figaro, followed by Charlton Duza.
I miss you all so much. For those of you who do not know me, I am Jesse Figaro, a U.S. Army veteran and former member of the LIRR 88 Task Force. I'm currently serving the VA New York Harbor healthcare system since November 2024 as ambassador, 8 to 4, Monday to Friday. I'm now advocating on weekends, holidays, and on my travels as an accessibility transportation advocate, the same I did when I was recently actively involved for 2 years. Safety and accessibility are our highest priorities. Reason why I'm publicly speaking today is because of the tremendous progress I have seen firsthand, such as congestion pricing, much needed accessibility projects, etc. Let's keep it rolling. Also, the Rubber 7 train was awesome. After a long absence for the Mets home opener, I was very happy to see our beloved transit president, Demetrius Critchwell, and his staff. Good job, Mr. President. Thank you, everyone, for what you do, especially the NYPD and MTA police. I have received complaints at the VA hospital that people who rely on a such a ride had been late for their appointments and getting home late because of the late times to be picked up. However, I did get numerous compliments from the seniors and veterans who get their Omni reduced fare cards because of my referral and all other things. I'm looking forward to the Berridge 95th Street Elevator Project, Queens Bus Network, and other projects coming soon, including the return of the Rockaway line. Thank you and God bless.
The next speaker is Charlton Duza, followed by Jason Anthony.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Charlton Duza. I'm the president of Passengers United. So today's meeting is talking about fare evasion. Well, guess what? For the Queens bus redesign, you guys promised that additional bus transfers would be provided and that information would be on the website. It's not on the website. It's in none of your materials. So we're giving you guys 1 week to get this together. And we are also putting a report of our own of free transfers that should be provided. But what I think the MTA needs to do is bring back the 1-day unlimited Omni card. They should have that and fix the MetroCard vending machines at all the stations. It's so hard now to even buy a MetroCard. And a lot of people in Southeast Queens use Nassau Intercounty Express, the same thing for Beeline buses in the Bronx. So any of those subway stations that intersect with those bus routes should have more than 1 or 2 MetroCard vending machines. And the check cashing places, many of them do not have 30-day unlimiteds or 7-day unlimiteds. So you guys need to provide more of that there. And the other issue is, in terms of the transfer policies, there are many people who have told me that people with disabilities, some people will require more buses now because bus stops have been eliminated. Like, for instance, the Q88 bus through Horace Harding over there by Leaf Rock City. They don't have any bus service over there overnight. And that is a major flaw in the Queens bus redesign that has to be dealt with immediately. So we need the Q88 bus to run all night so that those people in those poor communities have bus service. And so, we'll be following up with you guys. We want to have a meeting. But again, the reason why fare evasion is out of control because all the machines are broken, including the new Omni machines. Thank you.
The next speaker is Jason Anthony, followed by Christopher Grafe.
Good morning once again. Jason Anthony, the Transit Girl. Today I was supposed to be at work in Amazon in Staten Island, but due to the most recent incidents that I had to deal with this past weekend, I had to be here instead. Let's start off with some fact checks. The previous speaker mentioned about bus stops in Queens. That's a New York City DOT issue, not an MTA issue. And speaking of Queens, I have been into Southeast Queens. For example, Jamaica Center, Sunset Boulevard, Archer Avenue, JFK Airport, Jamaica 179th Street. The machines are working. And speaking of Nassau Intercounty Express, or not so nice like I call it, is getting Omni at the fourth quarter this year. But speaking of the forgotten borough, Richmond County, this past Saturday when I was getting out of work, I had to encounter death of service. Because let's not forget, I take the system every day. And as a person who takes the subway station even overnight, I have to encounter homeless people, people smoking in the trains, and yes, people that go to work at Amazon not paying the fare. And even no police presence at St. George Terminal. So I tell everybody, go to Staten Island.
The next speaker is Christopher Grafe, followed by Gene Ryan.
Good morning, everyone. Christopher D. Grafe, and do want to say Happy Autistic Awareness Month. As you know, as my other advocate colleagues have been saying, safety is very important. And, you know, it's nice to see at nights, I see NYPD on the trains. And if I have to travel at night, it's glad to see them there on the trains. But you know what? Everyone complains about the Queens redesign, but they also forget when we do these outreach a lot, we remind people, if you know a bus stop is being discontinued and you feel like you want to keep it, not just go into the MTA, but go to your DOT, get the communities together and let them know why you need that bus stop. Because it can be a safety issue. It can be a lot of issues. Some bus stops are so close to each other, it's times you have to merge them times. And let's also forget Accessoride also goes into those stops to drop someone off for safety too. So let's also remember a lot of safety comes in there. Also, you know, since we are celebrating Autistic Awareness Month, I just want to be very clear because some people said they never saw the logos. I want to say I saw so many Autistic Awareness Month logos, so many places. I mean, I've seen places I have never seen before, and it's nice to see it. So I want to be clear for the record, it's there at all places. If I mention it, we'll be here until next year for the next annual one. But safety is very important. The future accessibility rides with us, and I'm very glad to see accessible reroutes coming out very much more. Thank you, everyone.
The next speaker is Jean Ryan, followed by Omar Vera.
Hi, excuse me. I'm Jean Ryan, President of Disabled in Action of Metropolitan New York. The express bus design needs to be redesigned without a lift to a low-floor ramp style where everyone goes in the same door and non-disabled people go up a few steps to the higher level. It needs to be done because just saying that all the buses are accessible really is not true. Wheelchair users have to be able to count on getting on and off the express buses. We should not miss rides or have to be taken off by firefighters. This affects the other riders too. Maybe we should use regular buses as express buses. Then wheelchair users would have an equal chance of getting on. On April 8, 2025, 20 days ago, I tried to take the X28 bus home at night from Manhattan. The driver was inexperienced, cooperative, and nice. She could not force the seats to move, so she flagged down a sim bus driver who helped. The area under the seats was dirty, and a big full soda bottle was stuck under the seats, too. I finally got on the bus, but the lift would not go all the way into the bus, so we could not take off. A cable or wire had broken. The FDNY had to take me and my 400-pound wheelchair off the bus yet again, and these photos are from that night. Finally, I got on a different express bus and got a ride back to my neighborhood. Instead of a 30-minute trip, it took me 2 hours to get to Bay Ridge. And the people on the bus, other people, were also highly inconvenienced. No matter how much the MTA tries to train drivers, the lift and seats are complicated, and even experienced drivers forget a step sometimes.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay. But I can teach them sometimes.
Thank you for your comment. The next speaker is Omar Vera, followed by Cara Girl.
Greetings, Mega Committee, MTA Board's Mega Committee. Welcome to the April edition. Where to start? Well, I learned about almost 2 weeks ago that the final R46 on the A and the C ran on Thursday, April 17th. I wish there was at least a little bit of, well, I do know that they're still running the G and Q and W as well as the Rockaway Park shuttle, but this is like the end of an era. No more 75-foot cars on the A and the C, because I remember, as far as I can remember, I remember the R44 when it ran on the A, in addition to the R32 and R38, and now I remember when they switched to R46s when the R160 started coming in and displacing like a bunch of the POV view cars. But like I said, this is an end of an era, and now they aim to see a majority R211s, and with some R179s. Second, like I said, thanks for staying your ground firm with congestion pricing, because now DOT Secretary Sean Duffy once again he's shouting, but he's not getting anywhere. He once again pushed the deadline, but because he knows he has no case. So keep up the good work, because congestion pricing is here to stay. Third, I would like to also say I know the Queens Bus redesign is gonna come in late June, but please revise that a bit, at least to allow direct Bronx LaGuardia Airport bus routes like you originally had with the Q50. I don't know why that had to be revised, but we rather that at least for better transportation, we need as many connections as possible. So that should be the plan. With that, and last but not least, like Andrew recommended, once the Rockaway service is restored, have LA service the Rockaways and the C extended to Lefferts Boulevard. Thank you so much, and thank you for commemorating Autism Awareness Month. It means so much to me, who's on the spectrum. Thank you so much, and see you around.
Thank you for your comment. The next speaker is Cara Girl.
Good morning. I'm Cara Girl, Planning and Advocacy Manager at the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, PCAC. As state budget season comes to a close, hopefully soon, the time to fully fund the capital plan is now or never. Whether it's through expanding the payroll mobility tax, reinstating the stock transfer tax, instituting a package tax, or another combination of the dozens of funding options we evaluated in our report called Take Your Pick, riders deserve investment. We encourage Albany to choose funding options that don't disproportionately burden low-income New Yorkers or New York City, because transit supports our entire region and state. Riders can't afford to see our capital plan cut or rejected again, especially when the bulk of this plan is essential state-of-good repair work, accessibility upgrades, and signal revamps. PCAC also strongly rejects USDOT's ongoing attempts to kill congestion pricing. Every month, the benefits have become more and more clear, and the worst-case scenarios that opponents like Sean Duffy continue to fearmonger still haven't materialized. In fact, quite the opposite. We fully support the MTA's lawsuit against the administration's feckless attempts to bring back traffic and congestion, this time by threatening to pull even more funding. The feds should put down their swords and learn to upload the correct documents next time. Lastly, with the economy and affordability issues front and center for New Yorkers, now is the time to expand fare discounts. PCAC's Rider First Fare agenda lays out 5 common-sense ways to make sure that all New Yorkers can afford transit. First, expand fare fares to 200% of the federal poverty level, and second, to the railroads within New York City. Ensure that seniors and disabled riders can use their discount on the railroads during the morning peak. Create a family fare that includes 12 to 17-year-olds who are currently forced to pay the full adult fare, and create a weekly city ticket with transfers to subways and buses within New York City. As we continue the transition to Omni, investing in transit affordability will pay off in the long term by encouraging more riders to get on board. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the public comment session for today.
Okay, thank you to our public comment speakers. Even when it's controversial, we do appreciate, especially those who regularly come to voice their points of view. And as I said to Gene Ryan this morning, even when we disagree, you're part of the MTA family, and we do appreciate the effort that you take to share your thoughts. We're going to jump right into the presentation on fare collection and fare evasion. I'm going to go fully around the horn, starting with John McCarthy, Chief of Policy and External Affairs.
Thanks, Chair, and super exciting to be at the grown-up table. Thanks for having me. So as the Chair mentioned, we're going to do, a big group of us is going to report on fare and toll, but this is basically sort of a business report in many ways, because like any business, we want to talk about getting more people to use our product, making sure it's easy to pay for that product, and making sure it's really hard to steal our product. So with that, first I'm going to discuss what we're doing to get more people to use our product, specifically how we're encouraging riders to come back to the system. Our Chief Customer Officer, Shani Figarero, is then going to go into how we're making it easier for customers to pay the fare and toll. And then on the flip side, how we're making it harder to evade the fare and toll. For that, you're going to hear from our agency presidents. But first, I'm going to go back one more slide. Okay. So first, I want to sort of get into like why this is why it's so important for people to use our product. It makes sense for most businesses, but for government agencies, that's not always their key performance index. But for us, it very much is. 40% of the MTA's operating budget comes from fares and tolls, so we're dependent on our riders paying to keep our operating budget strong. And this is one of the highest fare box recoveries in the nation. And that's a good thing. It incentivizes delivering a great product. We sort of have very clear skin in the game. But let's take a moment first to look back at where our business was not too long ago. The pandemic tested the strength of our business model, which at the time relied even more heavily on fares and tolls than it does today. The transit system was facing uncertainty, travel and commuting patterns were changing, and New Yorkers were very concerned about safety on the subways, particularly. There's no doubt back then it was glum, as everyone here remembers, and this was a problem we were facing nationally as people changed the way they worked and commuted. Back then, this board had a choice. We could cut service, we could lay off staff, we could hike fares and tolls by huge numbers. You also had a choice to go all in on transit, and that's what you chose. And so by going all in on transit, so much that we went so all in on transit that we're running more subways, buses, and commuter trains than we were before the pandemic. Here's just a sampling before you of the improvements we've made in just the last 3 years. More off-peak service on 12 subway lines, thanks to the $35 million investment from Governor Hochul and the state legislature. Last week, we announced quicker trips are coming this summer to local bus routes throughout the city. The most bus-dependent borough is getting faster and more efficient bus network this summer, that's Queens. And then there's been that huge increase on Long Island Railroad service thanks to Third Track project and the brand new 700,000 square foot Long Island Railroad terminal on the east side of Manhattan. And then, of course, we can't forget the huge investments that we continue to make in accessibility so that everyone has the opportunity to use this growing service. We also heard so much when we did our outreach with our customers on the importance of safety, particularly people who were not coming back. They were concerned about safety. Much of them read about issues in newspapers and the like, and that was discouraging them from coming back. So what have we done? We've made huge investments along with the NYPD, the governor, and the mayor in that world. Major crime on the subway, as you heard today from the NYPD, is down compared to the same time last year. There are more police officers patrolling the system, and cops are on train cars during the overnight period. That's something that customers had asked for, and it's being delivered. At the end of last year, we finished installing, again, something you heard this morning from Chief Gimper, installing security cameras in every car, and we're installing brighter LED lights in all the stations. That's the New York City Transit. Demetrius Critchlow has really pushed his staff hard to make both of those things happen. And then plus, we're addressing cases of severe mental illness in the system by deploying those co-response teams called SCOUT. Those are made possible, again, by a contribution from state government under the leadership of Governor Hochul. And all along, we're also looking to make sure that improvements to service continue in addition to safety. So, how's the product going? The results are in. Ridership and performance are up across the system. We're consistently today carrying 6 million daily customers, double the amount of people moved daily by the airline industry. That includes regularly having 4+ million people on the subway daily. Subway customer journey time in March was 86%, the highest ever recorded in subway history. Railroads, both railroads, consistently trend over 90% on-time performance. And buses, they're up 20% faster in Manhattan thanks to the congestion relief zone. So as a result, you can see here on this chart before you, people are coming back to the system, and we're sustaining that ridership growth. This is really, and Jay Patel can speak to this. This is within the range of our budget forecast, this growth, but it wasn't always the case. If you look closely, you'll see a dip in the later part of 21 into 22, and that was a scary time. That was Omicron, where we had severe availability issues, our availability of workers to run our system. Ridership was reversing. We had every excuse to reduce service. We didn't, and instead we grew. Even one of those new customers last month was Secretary Duffy, so that was exciting. Although the way he uses MetroCard, it did not appear that he was not a rookie rider. So, here at the beginning, we mentioned that this is very much a business report. If you look at this slide, you can see this is very much the money slide. It's literally the money slide. We've made the system more attractive. Riders are coming back. They're using our service. And fare revenue is up 67% since 2021. And what's important, what you're going to hear more of from today, it's not just new riders, it's more riders paying. And that's important. It's a combination of the two that's allowing us to have that increase to meet our budget needs. So now I'm going to hand it off to Shanifa Riera, our Chief Customer Officer, who will talk about where we are with making it easier for our customers to pay their fare and tolls.
Thank you, John. So while improvement in service and safety are critical to winning back riders, we've also made it so much more convenient and easy for customers to pay their fares and tolls. I want to take a moment to remind everyone how much more convenient it is to tap and go. You're no longer required to carry an extra card. It is all contained in your credit card, in your watch, on your phone. But for those who have an affinity to a physical card, it is still available for you. You no longer need to go to a vending machine or calculate how much money you need to add. And if you have a physical card, you can refill it online or set up an automatic reload so that whenever you're ready to tap and navigate the system, it's ready for you. And you'll never need to pay more than 12 trips a week, giving customers a more financial flexibility opportunity. Since Tap and Go, I have to say, I don't miss the days of swiping 2 or 3 times before entering a turnstile. And for me, it's less stressful than watching a Knicks game. And now, every category of customers can access Tap and Go. We've launched the program back in 2019, making it available at a few stations. Since then, we've accelerated the installation of readers across all 472 stations and the entire bus fleet. We've continued to educate our customers through tons and numerous customer-facing campaigns and messaging, so hopefully you have heard about it and gotten the word out. At the end of this year, at the end of last year, we finished rolling out the Tap and Go to all customer segments, including customers using fair fares, reduced fares, paratransit, pre-tax, and students. This was a huge win for New Yorkers, especially as we prepare to retire the MetroCard at the end of this year. You'll hear more about those efforts and to promote the Tap and Go among those groups from both Jesse and Jamie during the CPC presentation later this morning. And in one of the biggest factors to support the switch to Tap and Go, Demetrius and I have worked hand in hand to get the station agents out of the booth, which was a relic from the token era. Each station agent out of the booth provides a safer environment and a more welcoming feeling. The agents can physically assist customers who need help understanding Omni, purchasing an Omni card, and they also encourage customers to tap and enter the turnstile. On the commuter railroads, our nearly 5-star train time app makes it more convenient to buy and use commuter rail tickets. As you can see from the chart here, over 70% of our customers use train time to purchase their tickets. We've quadrupled the market share since 2017, and it now accounts for 71% of all railroad ticket revenues. And on bridges and tunnel crossing, open road tolling was a huge transformation for all payment when it was introduced back in 2017. Drivers can now go where they need to go faster, and the roads that they're traveling are safer because there are no longer backups at the toll plazas. Easy Pass is incredibly convenient for customers to choose how they want to pay, whether it's pay per ride, automatic replenish, or even by cash. And in partnership with the Port Authority and the New York Thruway, we've just unveiled a brand new Easy Pass website and a Toll NY app, making it easy for our customers to view their accounts and pay their tolls. Now, let's turn your attention over to ways we're making it harder for our customers to fare evade and toll evade. As John mentioned earlier, each of the agency presidents will present on initiatives they've undertaken to tackle this issue and progress they've made on each front. I'll first pass it to Demetrius, who will walk through the initiatives underway on buses and subways.
Thank you, Shanifa. Let me start by saying first how proud I am to be a part of this momentous shift to enforcing the fare. Chair LIRR has challenged the team to leave no stone unturned in trying to reinstall the confidence in the system by enforcing fare compliance. When I took the helm as interim president, we took immediate action to target each of the avenues that fare evaders were using to enter our system, and doubled down on those efforts when I was confirmed as the president, permanent president. Now, I've spoken at length about how we're fortifying the station environment to make it harder for people to evade the fare. But today I wanted to share some of the results that show when those interventions are stacked on top of one another, we see real results. So on subways, we know that the gate guards are deterring fare evasion. Where the gate guards are deployed, there's been a 36% decrease in fare evasion, 36% just from the gate guards. We know that that's been the superhighway of fare evasion. We've also made it possible for determined fare evaders to pull back we made it difficult for them to pull back the turnstile arms with backcocking. So we're now at 90% of the system that has been modified so you cannot backcock at the turnstiles anymore. And we're on track to complete 100% of the system by summer. At the emergency gates, which we talk about as a superhighway for fare evasion, we're piloting delayed egress. So if a customer tries to exit through the gate, there's a 15-second delay between when the customer pushes the bar and when the door opens, encouraging them to exit through the turnstiles instead. As of this morning, delayed egress is now operational at 70 stations. At locations where fins and sleeves are installed at turnstiles, there's been 60% fewer jumps. The data suggests that by stacking these interventions on top of one another, we can fortify our stations against the major drivers of fare evasion, increasing paid ridership and meaningfully reduce fare evasion. Now, I have to take the time to thank our partners. NYPD has been an amazing partner in shifting how they are, not only supporting our employees, but also doubling down on efforts for fare evasion. And I'd be remiss if I did not mention the efforts that the MTA PD has also done at many of the locations where they're also responsible for enforcing fare evasion, the larger complexes. Now, anyone who's been paying attention knows just how seriously I've taken the challenge of reducing fare evasion on buses. This was a core issue and a day one priority of mine. For 4 years, bus fare evasion has risen unchecked, year after year, reaching nearly a peak of 50% evading the fare as of last spring. Now, I always say, for New Yorkers, listen, everyone pays for their bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich in the morning. They do it. They every morning they hit that bodega and they get that bacon, egg, and cheese. They're going to go out on the weekend. They're going to go to the beauty salon. They're going to get their nails done. They're going to get their hair done. The same money that they're using, they should be using to pay for their rides in the subway system and in the bus system. They should not be into our system without paying for their ride. It's not fair for the 1.5 million riders who rely on the quality of bus service that we have to provide to the city to see someone that just walks past one of our operators. And so I challenge the team to reimagine how we deploy the Eagle teams. What could we do differently? How can we work better with NYPD and enforcing the fare? Together, they'd enforced fare payment and deterred the use of the back door. That was another area that we found. Folks were just walking through the back door. And so changing how our bus operations, our bus operators left the door open when certain stops also challenged people to go to the front of the bus. These Eagle teams reach out about 140 locations every week. 1,500 bus trips daily they're hitting. It is, without question, a visible deployment designed to get people's attention. We developed a plan to address bus fare evasion, and it's gone down every quarter I've been in this role. There's more work to do, no question, but I'm encouraged by the progress that we've seen since last summer. And now I'll pass it over to Rob and Justin, who will speak about fare evasion efforts on the commuter railroads.
Thanks, Demetrius. Let me start saying it plainly. Revenue protection is one of our top priorities. Demetrius laid out some of the initiatives taking place at subways. Well, at both railroads, we have also undertaken many initiatives to combat fare evasion. One particular area of significant focus is ticket collection and making it more efficient for both our customers and our onboard staff. One of the initiatives encourages customers to have their tickets purchased and ready for inspection before they board trains through various means of communication, such as onboard announcements, station announcements, and digital signage throughout our systems. We have also instituted pre-boarding ticket validation programs, which are in addition to our event programs at certain locations. And the response has been positive, both from a revenue collection perspective and from our customers, who appreciate our efforts to address fare evasion, particularly those that pay every single day and see others that are trying to evade paying fares. We are seeing more customers ready with purchased tickets and activated tickets before they board. At the Long Island Railroad, it's been so successful that we now perform pre-boarding validation every weekday at Penn Station. We've also updated our onboard invoicing program, Commitment to Pay, which addresses intentional fare evaders. This program now requires riders to provide a valid identification before being issued a Commitment to Pay invoice. If no valid ID is provided, MTA PD, who, if they're not on board the train, are called, they respond, they remove the customer from the train, which will lead to enforcement action, which could mean a summons or even an arrest depending on the situation. Since instituting this program, the Long Island Railroad has issued 66% fewer Commitment to Pays where there was a higher propensity for issuance. And Metro North has issued 31% fewer Commitment to Pay invoices. Now, Chief Taffy earlier talked about behavioral change. I think that's proof of behavioral change. All this has been accomplished without impacting service performance, as both railroads are at record levels of on-time performance. We've seen tremendous progress in revenue protection, which could not be achieved without the collaboration of our dedicated employees, our labor organizations, and the MTA PD, who we thank for their efforts in making this a successful initiative. I'll now turn it over to Justin.
So one of the key drivers of our success on the railroads has been the strong partnership between management, labor, our train crews, and MTA PD. When riders refuse to pay or create conflict with the conductor, we call in the PD immediately. And from 2023 to 2024, summonses and arrests for fare evasion have increased dramatically. MTA PD has significantly stepped up their support, including riding more of our trains. Officers are taking fare disputes off the train So we are no longer delaying a train full of thousands of paying customers for one person who refuses to pay. We also have MTA PD presence in both of our operation control centers, which has greatly improved real-time coordination to address fare evaders while significantly reducing police-related train delays. Train crews have a renewed confidence that the police have their back, and they trust that when they call for PD assistance, the police will be there. I want to close out by thanking our dedicated train crews for their efforts, and to the MTA PD officers who are not only driving down fare evasion, but also ensuring the safety of our train crews, which remains a top priority for us. And now I will pass it over to Kathy Sheridan to talk about the work her team has done on catching toll evaders.
Just a quick interruption to acknowledge that we have, our labor representatives on the board, 2 unions representing the conductors, and they have been especially and extraordinarily cooperative and taking great initiative to accomplish what we've accomplished. So thank you to the labor leaders and their teams. Go ahead, Kathy.
Thank you, Justin. On our bridge and tunnel crossings, we're aggressively enforcing persistent toll violators. Over 3 years, we increased persistent toll violator interdictions by 350% and towing by 155%. This enforcement is critical to deter those who refuse to pay and has helped us increase revenue recovery by 44% over the past 3 years. We've also been a leader in the multi-agency task force, which has now grown to 12 law enforcement agencies to crack down on ghost plates, which encompass drivers who cover, obstruct, alter, and use fake plates to avoid paying their fair share. And you can see the results here. In just over a year of operations, we've issued over 45,000 summonses, towed over 4,400 vehicles, and made over 1,000 arrests. We will continue this enforcement on our crossings and in the congestion relief zone to drive down this intentional, shameless behavior. And now I'll pass it back to John.
Thanks, Kathy. So we've heard what we're doing to making it easier for customers to pay and all the great work that's being done by the agencies to stop people from not paying the fare. One of the things that we're going to continue to believe and work on is that there needs to be real consequences for theft of service when it comes to fare evasion. It's not just playing defense. We need consequences. It's necessary to catch fare evaders and the people who enable fare evasion and recidivists, and that's why we continue to advocate for stronger consequences. So what does that look like? It's clear that the decision to stop charging theft of service has had a major impact on our operating budget and the safety of the system, both. We're continuing to work hand in hand with law enforcement to ensure there are consequences for fare evasion, and that effort will not stop. The second thing you heard earlier today from our criminal justice advocate, Katie Velasca, she's working closely with the DAs to make sure that crimes committed in the transit system are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, especially when they're committed in connection with other crimes. Third thing that we want to point out is Police Commissioner Tisch has sustained a strong police presence, particularly in trains and in stations, as I mentioned before, where crimes are likely to occur. She's also recently announced a program that involves quality of life initiatives, which is being expanded into the subway system. This is really focusing on the sort of things that cause our customers to believe that someone may be capable of doing worse things on that subway system. This is like someone smoking, feet up, just aggressive panhandling and the like. We're also remain very focused on service in addition to this, getting back to the point of this being a business that we want people to come back to. And we're always working to improve that service, and we will continue, and also protecting that service. Ways that we will look to improve the service are things like with congestion relief zone, where buses are able to move more quickly. Demetrius and the team are looking to match those schedules up. When it comes to protecting service, things just happen to be discussing this morning with Commissioner Mack and Mr. Herbst and others, is protecting service on the Long Island Railroad. We know the East River Tunnel closures are coming from Amtrak, and that's a concern. So we're always looking to protect our customers and to protect that service. The next slide, I just want to go quickly into what's up next, what we're looking forward to. We'll have full tap and go by the end of the year, once the final card vending machines are installed in stations. Another exciting thing is proof of payment is coming to buses in 2026. So how does that work? Eagle teams will come onto the buses and they'll be able to scan a person's card to validate fare payment. That, makes a lot of sense. It's going to be a huge new tool in toolbox and possibly expanded into our other systems as well down the road. Railroad ticketing policies will continue to be refreshed. More to come on that later in the year. But the point is, most of our customers on the railroads pay. Some people don't. And you know who hates those people? The paying customers. So we're going to do something about that. Importantly, we'll continue to harden the physical environment. Full backcocking modifications, expanding on what Demetrius has been working on, complete by this summer. More delayed egress. And the big thing is modern fare gates at 20 stations this year. That was announced by Governor Hochul during her State of the State at the beginning of this year. And so for that, I'll hand it over to Jamie to close out.
Thank you. So that's, what the board has heard is a comprehensive strategy that's been developed across the MTA to address fare evasion at all levels. And clearly what we've been talking about is enforcement is the most important thing in the near term, along with some incremental physical changes that can be made to the system in the near term. In the long term, there's a big capital physical transformation aspect of this, and that is bringing modern fare gates into the subway system. So we've set aside $1.1 billion in the 2025 to 2029 capital plan, which we're hoping will be approved any moment now and fully funded, to roll out modern fare gates at 150 subway stations across the system during that 5-year period. These gates are the cutting edge and are aimed at both ensuring fare compliance and making the system more accessible and easier to use. We're already in a procurement for gate technology. We've shortlisted 4 vendors. You see examples of their technology here on the slide. They'll deploy their gates in our system on a test basis at those 20 stations this year. Their technology has been demonstrated in other systems, and while it may look familiar to some, it involves major technology upgrades in all cases. We are getting the absolute cutting-edge technology within our system. These gates all have a set of baseline characteristics. They have both wide-aisle gates to replace the emergency gates and standard gates that replace the turnstiles. They generally use paddles that open and close and are very difficult to force open, hold open, or climb over. They use the most modern sensor, object detection, and machine learning technology to open and close only for fare-paying passengers. And to enable that, we'll have what we call a back end that will allow us to work on getting all the settings right and monitoring to strike the balance between accessibility and preventing fare evasion. Beyond enforcing the fare, we all know that they also make it easier for people with mobility devices and people with luggage or strollers to enter and exit the system. We expect to start seeing this equipment within the system later this year, and you can see a sampling here of some of the technologies and some of the station locations where we intend to deploy them. With that, Chair, I think that concludes our presentation, and back over to you.
So I guess that, a lot of this is old news to the board members. But there is a misapprehension out there that because you see fare evasion taking place that folks don't care about it. Let me just remind everybody, when this group came together in early 22, after I got confirmed, we started the Blue Ribbon panel on fare evasion. So we brought together experts from a lot of different walks of life to come up with a pretty detailed plan, and we've been executing it. And we've taken these physical intervention measures, the measures that we can take within the capacity of the existing infrastructure, in tandem with working with our partners for increased enforcement, paying a ton of money for those gate guards, although the ROI is there, and that's what Demetrius is always looking at, that we make sure that the reduction in fare evasion actually means it's a net positive investment. But so we've taken on a range of different issues to attack fare evasion while at the same time doing what's necessary to make sure that fare evasion is never if we can help it, a crime of poverty, which is a principal issue for all of us. And that's why we've been such ardent advocates for the Fair Fares program and increasing eligibility and enrollment. We are the most active party doing enrollment in Fair Fares, even though it's a city program. So bottom line is, it's worked. Fare evasion on the subway system is down 30% since last year. Bus fare evasion for the first time in some time has been turned around under Demetrius's leadership. And I went out to the Bronx a couple weeks ago with Demetrius to see some of that work, but it's happening all over the city, as he said, with 1,500 bus trips a day, right? So we're determined to turn this around even before the additional modern fare gates get done. It is as I said from day one, fare evasion is an existential issue for the New York, not just because of the money, although it is huge impact, but also because it goes fundamentally the sense of community and morale and fairness. We share public space in New York. It is the defining thing about New York is we are dense and we share public space. When it starts to feel like the public space is a place where everybody's operating by the same rules, the city's not, it starts to fall apart. We just got to be honest about that. So we got to push back. We are pushing back. We are being successful. We got to keep going forward. With that little introduction, I invite board comments and questions. Hayda Mahaltzis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you everyone who has played a big part and little part in trying to get fare evasion down to a minimum. Jamie, can you tell me how we picked those 20 stations? Were they the ones that had the most incidences of fare evasion, or you said that they were wider? Like, how did we pick them?
It's actually a combination of variables, and you might notice we didn't list 20 stations there
No,
because
I know, you just list,
we're
right,
still
exactly.
thinking through it. You know, we're looking for stations where we do see higher levels of fare evasion, but you know, in some cases, you know, just as an example of another variable, these new gates will be Omni gates, and so we have to make sure we have, you know, MetroCard access to the station. Otherwise, you know, geographic diversity. There are some stations here in this subset where we have better camera technology that allows us to monitor what's happening. So it's really a variety of things, but that's what's important is we want to see how these function within a variety of settings within our system.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Albert.
Thanks, everybody. This is extremely important, and we have to move forward with the new turnstiles and all of these methods. But I have a question for Demetrius, I guess. If you prevent turnstiles from backcocking, how does one exit through a turnstile?
The turnstile turns in one direction, so if you're exiting, the notch is on one side of the control arm. It flows freely in the opposite direction.
And if you're trying to backcock, why would that not?
Andrew, it works. Because we'll go out and I'll show you. It works. Okay, because Demetrius has. I mean, this is amazing. They went in. I went into the office, which is the operation in East New York, where they figured out how to adjust the turnstile mechanism so that it would prevent people, make it hard to backcock and slip by. You know, you've seen how it's done. So there was a ton of work. It took months to figure out the technology solution to that with some really complicated tool and die work. But it works. It just, everybody can exit through the turnstile, but they can't backcock and then slip by. That's the way it works. Next question, Ms. Lopez, followed by Mr. Zuckerman and Ms. Sarn.
Thank you. I do want to thank all of you who contributed to this presentation. I will clarify that for the folks in Westchester County, Omni is coming, and we've been working diligently with Jamie and his staff, as well as with Jay and her team, to clarify some misunderstanding with regards to the implementation of Omni. I know my colleagues at the Department of Public Works and Transportation at the county are working very hard. The contracts are going to be finalized by the end of, actually by the beginning of May at the next Board of Legislators meeting for the county. But I appreciate a lot of the messaging kind of gets lost when we're talking to Westchester Beeline riders who are then transferring to New York City Transit bus and subways. So I do appreciate all of the communication that goes back and forth. Thank you.
Zuckerman.
Thank you, sir. First off, you mentioned you assembled this team after you were confirmed. This is quite a team. Just the way you coordinate in your conversations, the way you build on each other, it is extraordinary. And I think the reason why the MTA is working so well these days is because of this team you've put together. So congratulations on that. Secondly, on the infrequent occasions when people complain about congestion pricing to me, usually their response is, well, why don't you just get the money from stopping fare evasion? It's a knee-jerk, simplistic response, and I generally say, I think we're doing all we can. I think we're doing the right things from to your point about ROI. We're making sure that when we put guards in, it makes sense financially. We don't want to spend more on guards than we do in capturing revenue, but we're doing all we can. And I think when you look at this presentation, I don't know what more you could do. And I'm really happy to hear, John, happy is not the right word. I think it's appropriate to hear that we're doing some validation on buses as well. That's a great thing. But overall, I don't know what my colleagues think, but I think we're doing all we can. I do have a question, and I wonder maybe this is for Jay or Kevin, or maybe this is for Shanifa. Do we have a sense when we look across other systems, what is a natural floor for loss of revenue? I know if you work in retail, for example, they call it shrinkage. I worked at Gristedes when I was in 10th, 11th, and 12th grades. I know once in a while a can of beer would somehow miraculously disappear from a shelf. 2 straws, 3 straws maybe for drinking among us baggage boys, but sorry, Mr. Cat. Anyway, there's a natural, usually it's 2% they talk about in retail for shrinkage and bad debt. Is there a view as to what the natural floor is for the equivalent of shrinkage in a transit system?
I'm going to throw it to Jay. I mean, we're just so we're all aware, recent reports have suggested in Washington, D.C., bus fare evasion is 75% now. That bus fare evasion nationally has exploded. It's no question. We are, we're part of that bigger process, but the difference is here we've started to push it back. Jay.
Thank you, Chair. So I don't think we have a floor identified across all transit agencies. One thing I will say, at the MTA, when you look at the railroads, subways, we are one of the highest, if not the highest, fare box recovery ratio amongst all transit agencies, right? And so what that means is our fare box covers, upwards of 35% of our operating costs for each of those agencies. So I think in the area and in the system, we're doing well. It's hard to identify floors because not all agencies actually calculate fare box recovery or fare evasion to the extent that we do. We're one of the leaders in fare evasion calculations.
Okay, but the point is well taken, which is what we have to look at the benchmarks there to get a sense of what our ultimate goal is. We want to be at that bottom floor. Anybody else? Ms. Soren, and then Mr. Glucksman.
Simple question, and this one's to Jamie. On the short list that you put for the pilot projects, can you tell me how many Bronx sites we're looking at?
I don't have the slide in front of me, but as I said, we haven't finalized the whole list. So, I'm not gonna.
There's none on the list,
okay,
which is why I'm asking.
So on this list, there are none, but we of course, we need to. The Bronx will certainly get its share of modern fare gates. No question about that.
So I wanted to thank all the presenters. It's good to know that we're doing what we can. I also wanted to take a quick moment to thank our fellow board member, Neil Zuckerman, for speaking out and all that he's done for his constituents and for MTA, and in spite of what was said, not in such nice words against him, maybe we can, a commendation or something, I don't know what, maybe it's not appropriate, but we want to thank him anyway for what he did.
All right. All right, there'll be a group hug at the end of this board meeting. I think I note Mr. Herbst wanted to be recognized. Mr. Herbst.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This presentation, I think, was very informative and necessary. You have talked about the MTA being fact-driven, and I think the facts that have been presented today about the improvements and addressing the concern, the very serious concern about the loss. And you are addressing it head-on, and everyone, I congratulate you for that. One concern that is certainly paramount is the reliability of the system and the service. And on a sort of, John, you mentioned it was in the papers today and occasionally regarding the Amtrak service. And I think I may be addressing this either to you, John, or to Rob about the Amtrak service, where they're looking at the east side tunnels and shutting them down completely rather than just at nighttime. And the services for Amtrak is going to be cut 25% between Penn Station and Albany, and there's also been conflicting reports, which is more concerning to me, about the Long Island Railroad service. The Daily News editorial this morning said it's going to be a 20% reduction of inbound trains on the Long Island Railroad system into Penn in the morning, and other reports I've seen say there will be no impact. I am very hesitant and cynical about the Amtrak giving Long Island Railroad priority, even though we have more trains than they do, or in New York Transit. And if service needs to be cut, I think they're probably going to keep their trains running before ours if there's any problems. And to be looking forward for the next 3 years minimum of disruption like this, it is a major concern, and I'm just curious of what the conversations have been going on with Amtrak to assure that our services will not be erratic and impacted negatively.
Rob, do you want to comment on that? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. We share your concerns. I will start that since Grand Central Madison opened, we adjusted our schedules to, I'll say it lightly, accommodate this work. The problem is there are significant risks in the way in which they're going to perform this work with a continuous outage for a minimum of 3 years. To express those concerns, we wrote a letter to Amtrak citing our concerns once again with their preparatory work, current projects that have taken place that are already delayed, and also in terms of what they'll do when the project outage takes place. We reinforced our position that the outage should be overnights and weekends to lessen the risk to our operation. We also reminded them that we are the largest carrier, commuter rail, in between Amtrak, New Jersey Transit, and ourselves, into Penn Station, and we have the most at risk with this outage. Again, our concerns with the current project taking place at Harold Interlochen that has been delayed significantly due to manpower issues mainly on Amtrak's side, that we're concerned that this will impact this long-term outage, and as you mentioned, it's 3 years, which could even take longer. And lastly, we expressed our need for more transparency on details. And what I mean by that is what they're doing to harden the network before the outage takes place. We're not comfortable as to what they're doing yet. What they're going to do if the outage takes place on overnights, as far as other maintenance work that'll put the operation at risk, and then what type of oversight they'll have during the outage, where there's like critical points of failure, what they can do to protect those things. So we ask for transparency of details, more intensity, and a greater sense of urgency as to how they're approaching this project to protect our operation. So we met with them in response, as I said, to the letter we wrote earlier this month. We just met with them last week and expressed all these concerns.
I mean, just for clarity's sake, I mean, there are 2 of the 4 East River tunnels are Amtrak's in effect as operational. The ones that we use principally have been put in shape. These are the, right, Rob? These are the two Amtrak, the two tunnels that Amtrak more or less alone operates, predominantly are serving Amtrak. And they've been waiting, this work has been scheduled or coming since Superstorm Sandy, which was 2012. So long time coming, but the risks are real, and that's why Rob has been agitating so hard for them to either address, give much more certainty as their ability to protect our much larger volume of service, or to reconsider their approach to go to what you described, which is what they call repair in place, night and weekend, which is what we successfully use on the L train and the Rutgers Tunnel and some of the other tunnels that the MTA had to rehab after Superstorm Sandy. So that's where we are. It's right now Amtrak is forging ahead with a full outage. Rob?
I just want to add one more thing. As I said, we reduced service already. We've been pushing back firmly that we do not want to reduce service even more than that. And the risk, the greatest risk with this is that if something happens, something that's mundane that happens every day that doesn't cause a service disruption, with this type of outage will exacerbate that type of incident and cause a service disruption that we want to avoid.
We'll keep the board posted. I mean, I think it was written about in Newsday today, and it's certainly a topic on discussion. The governor, I know, is very concerned about the impact, especially to the Albany service, the volume of Albany service, which has been cut substantially already. So, anybody else wishes to be here? Mr. Brown?
Well, you got hated, too. No,
Oh,
I
Hayden,
just
sorry.
had, Jamie, something, another question I should have asked. How long is it going to take to install these new fare guards? Will it take a week, a couple of days, a couple of hours? Minimal impact to the station? Like, what are we thinking?
We're preparing now. We actually have C&D in New York City Transit has a very, very strong organized team on this, and we have a team out there that's doing the measurement, thinking about how to stage the installation. So when the gates are ready, there's a lot of complexity about deploying gates in our system. They have to be tested in the vendors' labs, and they have to be tested in our lab. Only when the gate is ready and we're comfortable, we'll go in and deploy it. It's a relatively quick deployment based on all the preparatory work that we'll have done.
But when they actually install it, how long will the station be closed?
Yeah,
Minimum.
well, not for long at all. I mean, we can do it we can do it in a matter of days.
We take advantage of the fact that a lot of stations have multiple engines.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
Make
Right.
sure that there's not
Right.
a full station shutdown.
Got it.
I think Mr. Brown wishing to be heard.
Yeah, without entirely blaming someone else for our problems, the history of Amtrak's supply of labor in Sunnyside and throughout the Main Line Third Track and the East Side Access projects it was such poor performance. They constipated our development of these projects, and of course, we took the blame for it all. As you said, we run the most service, so we're going to be the ones that get the heat. Well, it just occurs to me with Gateway and Penn Access for Metro North and the normal Amtrak problems, that isn't it all going to be overwhelming now? I mean, they couldn't handle just East Side Access, and the demand for labor is going to be such that, I mean, you want guys coming in at night. You couldn't get them coming in daytime over in Sunnyside Yard. And I don't know how you're going to, not to throw cold water on the whole thing, but it seems like 3 years is it wouldn't surprise me if that turns into 5 years, the way they go about supplying their labor.
You raise a good point, Norman, and I think something that Amtrak is also facing is funding constraints, specifically in this fiscal year, that they are talking about staff reductions as well, that we're not sure of what the impacts would that be from a both project oversight perspective and also your day-to-day oversight of the operation as well. So there are significant concerns.
staff cutbacks there. That should be a big help.
Okay, well, I think we're all on notice, and I think our partners and stakeholders are on notice about the concern on this this imminent, this is coming up in a week or two. So we have urged Amtrak to take another look, put it that way. Any other comments or questions on the fare collection, fare evasion portion of the meeting? Mr. Leathers?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. I just want to take this time to recognize Chief Kemper and Chief Taffy and the MTA PD and all those who are concerned with the safety of the conductors as they collect the fares. It's very important in maintaining security and safety and the assurance that they can do their job properly. So it's very much appreciated by labor.
Thank you, and thank you for making that your maiden comment. We're glad you're here, and that the partnership that we're here to celebrate is reinforced by your role here. With that, we're going to turn the meeting to Omni and the adoption and transition process. So with that, may I ask Jesse Lazarus to take over the microphone?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee members. I'm Jesse Lazarus. I'm the Deputy Chief of Commercial Ventures, and one of my roles at the MTA is leading a cross-functional group of several dozen MTA employees who are responsible for delivering Tap and Go to our customers and sunsetting MetroCard sales by the end of this year. You heard earlier this morning that a key part of our work to address fare evasion is making fare payment easy. And that's really the goal for this transition from MetroCard to Tap to Pay. We want to make it simple and easy and convenient and affordable for customers to access transit. So 11 months ago, we reported to you that our focus for 2024 was making Tap and Go available to all of our customer segments, and we did that. As you can see in this slide, customers on both Subway in blue and Bus in orange have embraced their new access to the easiest and most convenient way to pay. Tap to Pay is now the dominant payment method on both modes, Subway and Bus in New York City Transit. And look at the growth in Bus in orange. Compared to Subway, Bus has a higher share of non-full fare customers, and this growth in the last 11 months is driven by these customers embracing Tap to Pay once it became available to them. Today, most, specifically 2/3 of New York City Transit customers tap to pay, and they do this because it's easy and it saves them time and it saves them money. They're not waiting in a vending machine line or worrying about how many trips to prepay on a MetroCard. This chart is like a square pie chart, and it shows you the breakdown of March's 146 million transit trips across subways and bus. The columns represent each customer segment, and their widths show you the relative size of that customer segment compared to overall ridership. So, for example, regular fare on the far left, it's the first and the widest column. It's 65%, as you see in the x-axis, of transit ridership. The blue shading represents Tap and Go trips. That's now 85%, as you can see in the y-axis, of all regular fare trips. Shanifa talked to you about the 2024 Tap and Go rollout, and we promised and we delivered to make Omni or Tap and Go available to all of our customer segments. That adoption and this 2/3 embrace is shown in blue. But today, I'm going to talk to you about the yellow, and that is the remaining last 1/3 of our customer base using MetroCard. We have targeted strategies to reach each of these yellow rectangles, and we're going to help all of our customers make this switch before MetroCard sales sunset on New Year's Eve this year. So diving in, we'll start from the leftmost section of this chart. We've got about 15% of that full fare customer base still using MetroCard. You can see that in the red outline. So these are customers who load money onto their MetroCards and they spend $2.90 per trip. $2.90 per swipe, $2.90. We hear from some of our customers, a small share, but nonetheless, that having a physical fare media card is important to them. And so these customers are going to keep using MetroCard until an Omni machine reaches their station and we pull the MetroCard machine out. This photo on the slide is from Jackson Heights last week, and it shows you an interaction between a customer and one of the many supplemental station agents who are ready to assist customers with the new OmniCard vending machines and the tap and go turnstiles. These one-to-one interactions are going to happen and are happening station by station as we move across the city, replacing equipment that Tim will describe to you soon. We're teaching customers how to buy and reload OmniCards at these vending machines, but we're also informing them that with OmniCards, now they can reload those cards online or at one of our local business retail partners when picking up a prescription at the pharmacy or buying milk at the bodega. These customers are also delighted to learn that they're automatically eligible for free rides if they ride 12 times in a week. Remember, this customer base has just been buying MetroCards and paying $2.90 every time, no matter how frequently they're traveling. But now, just by virtue of switching to Tap and Go, they'll never spend more than $34 in 7 days, no pre-planning required. Moving along in our square pie chart here. So speaking of 7 days, in the red outline here, we are sizing the 7-day unlimited MetroCard products. We sell a lot of these 7-day unlimited MetroCard sales in bodegas, delis, and check cashing spots across the 5 boroughs. At the MTA, we call this collective group of local businesses our retail network. And they matter a lot because this is where many bus riders buy their MetroCards. Bear in mind that the 7-day MetroCard product is $34 paid up front. So there is no upside for a customer to buy a 7-day MetroCard instead of an OmniCard where fares are capped at $34 per week, but if you ride less, you pay less. In the transition to Tap and Go, these same local businesses can and have been signing up to sell OmniCards to customers, and we're seeing this in the data. That 7-day column in red used to be a lot wider. Keep in mind it's never going to turn blue, but as it's shrinking, last March, for instance, there were 3 million more trips in that column than there are today. We are close to ending MetroCard sales to our local business retail partners, but ahead of this transition, we've been making and creating business-facing resources to help make sure these businesses understand the benefits of selling Omni. We're doing outreach through elected officials and business improvement districts. If you squint, you can see here an email from the 125th Street bid to its membership with details about how to sign up to sell Omni cards. But honestly, it's not a hard sell. Omni's just a better business for retailers than MetroCard. First of all customers, including the reduced fare customer base, are eligible to purchase and now reload their cards in these businesses. And second, whereas retailers spend cash up front to buy MetroCard inventory, with Omni there's no need for the businesses to prepay either. On to the monthly MetroCard, shown here in red. We sell about 60% of monthly MetroCards through pre-tax channels and then the rest from vending machines. So this is another column that's never going to turn blue, but has gotten a lot narrower over the last year, with about 2 million fewer trips in March of this year versus March of last year. And by next month, it's going to be even smaller. The biggest pre-tax companies are in the process of completely eliminating MetroCard sales and converting all of their products to either an Omni card that they'll automatically reload with pre-tax dollars, or a contactless debit card that customers can just tap at the turnstile. These photos show one of the pre-tax benefit companies, Eat in Red. It shows you their contactless debit cards, and the card up front in blue is actually the City of New York's employee pre-tax debit card, which they're now tapping at the turnstile. Customers tell us they love this. It's a better customer experience, not just because it's convenient and they can skip the vending machine line, but also because the money they don't spend on trips stays in their pre-tax pockets. Oh, excuse me. So, reduced fare customers, back in December, we converted the entire reduced fare program from MetroCard to Omni. And we mailed personalized Omni cards with a letter to our over 1 million existing reduced fare customers. And all new applicants at that point started receiving Omni cards instead of MetroCards. The folks in this photo are actually the first 3 customers to apply for reduced fare of the reduced fare program and receive their Omni card on the spot. The reduced fare customer base was quite quick. We're very excited. They were quite quick to embrace Omni. And the latest numbers here, this is March data, but the latest numbers I just looked this morning, and we're at 65% reduced fare Omni adoption. So incredible growth. We've encouraged all of our reduced fare program customers to just spend down that balance on their Metro cards and then switch to your Omni card. They can exchange the value if they'd like, but the Omni cards are ready to tap just as soon as you add value to them. But to support this remaining customer segment here in reduced fare, we're continuing efforts led by Shanifa's team to maintain a very high level and high touch customer service offerings, like in-person customer assistance at one of the 16 customer service centers and virtual assistance at our call centers, but also broad marketing efforts like out-of-home and radio ad placements to inform seniors and those with qualifying medical conditions that it's their turn to start tapping and how to find help if they need it. So 2 more columns left. Here we're talking about fare fares. This is the half fare program administered by the City of New York. And making fare fares tap and go eligible by the end of last year was an MTA priority. Now we are supporting the City of New York's work to help all fare fares customers make the switch. So a few notes about this. Existing customers can request to switch now. Just go to nyc.gov/accesshra. And later this year, the city is going to bulk issue Omni cards to any remaining fare fares customers who've yet to make the switch. But in the meantime, new or expiring and renewing fare fares customers will receive an Omni card. We're supporting this with the MTA's newly launched fare fares enrollment centers at several MTA stations, and the city's got a lot of paid marketing and pop-up events and text campaigns going to reach this customer base. The last segment here. We have sort of a long tail noted as other. There are a lot of segments here, including the employee pass. So Demetrius, I think, was unaware previously that we would be borrowing his photo, but we're thrilled that he's our poster child or the face of the MTA employee pass, which will give MTA employees Omni capabilities or tap and go capabilities. This also includes paratransit program, the uniformed agencies, and many others that have just very specific program distribution channels. So those are all in motion to reach customer hands by the end of this year. So in summary, there is a lot of activity happening. We are thrilled that New Yorkers have overwhelmingly embraced tap and go, and they're doing it because it saves them time and it saves them money. But to reach this remaining 1/3 of our customer base, we have targeted strategies for each of these yellow rectangles. Our goal is a smooth transition for all customers before we stop selling Metro cards on December 31st of this year. And now I'm going to hand it to Tim Kaiser, who's going to update you on the vendor contracts and project delivery details. Tim.
Thank you, Jesse. So when we last presented the capital program back in May of 2024, we were seeking approval of a rebaseline schedule that established contractual substantial completion date in December 2025, and I'm pleased to say that we're on track to hit that milestone. Our goals throughout 24 and 2025 are on the screen in front of you. A few presenters now have touched upon the software, and really the goal there was to get all these remaining ridership classes with the technology in hand to convert over. You've seen that presented in the data, and the system's now registering roughly about 4 million taps each weekday. On the physical installation front, last time we were here, we had 10 new Omni configurable vending machines and about 5 New York City subway stations where we were conducting our pilot. We've made a lot of strides moving the technology forward. I'm pleased to announce that we have over 670 devices now at over 325 subway stations. So that represents about 2/3 of the system and about 70% of the work that we have to complete. We have more to come on the next slide on the physical installations. And then the last bit was really the third-party coordination. You heard a question before about Westchester Beeline Bus. I will confirm that we are on track to deliver Omni service at both Westchester Beeline Bus and Nassau Intercounty Express Bus system by the end of this year, which is in line with the end of MetroCard sales. Keep in mind, these are the last two Omni affiliates to be onboarded to Omni. We had previously launched service at JFK AirTrain, Roosevelt Island Tram, and Hudson Rail Link. JFK AirTrain will continue to move forward with contracting with the vendor to procure enhanced gates to have, which will provide Omni integration. Building on our vending machine update, pleased to say that we are on track to have a vending machine in all stations by Labor Day of this year. That's all 980 public-facing devices. And we continue to install about a rate of 20 each week. So as you can see, that 670 to date have been installed, and we keep moving forward at a pretty aggressive pace here. I know in the past folks have presented this, but to reiterate, there are roughly 40 fewer vending machines in the Omni program than there will be in MetroCard. This takes advantage of the various payment options available to customers, and these devices are located strategically throughout the system in historically high cash sales areas and areas that are ADA accessible. We are ensuring that there is sufficient spread throughout the city so that all of our New York City Transit customers will have access to a device. We're also continuing to remove public-facing MetroCard equipment. Over this past weekend, we converted the first few stations to Omni-only sales at Roosevelt Avenue, Jackson Heights. So the picture you saw just before in Jesse's slides, a bit outdated as of Saturday night. 74th Street Broadway, Court Square, 23rd Street, and 21st Street. Station agents will be made available at these locations to assist customers as they transition to Omni. We will continue removing legacy devices from additional stations on a daily basis through the end of 2025, at which point we're confident that we'll have all of these MetroCard vending machines removed from the system. And we continue to monitor Omni adoption at all these stations to ensure that the work is done with minimal impact. And as a general reminder, MetroCard payment will be accepted into 2026. The screen before you, you're seeing a high-level visual representation of the major efforts that we presented back last year. As mentioned moments ago, we're either on track or we've hit all of our major targets. Our vending machine program continues forward. You heard earlier that our student and reduced fare programs are fully launched at this point. Fare fares and paratransit launches are ongoing, and they will be ongoing through 2025. And then, of course, we'll have our remaining affiliates on board by the end of the year. We also anticipate a limited release of our Omni virtual cards later this year. These are the digital cards that you generate directly in your phone wallet, whether it be Apple or Google Wallet. And we will be conducting, obviously, robust testing and various phases of piloting before we do a wider release to general customer base. Other future work in 2026 is really focused on back office enhancements, things like inventory management, upgrades to our B2B portal. Now pivoting over to our railroad system. When we presented last, we were seeking approval to award contracts to the existing vendors to upgrade the train time mobile ticketing application and to replace the physical ticketing system at both Long Island Railroad and Metro North. These contracts were awarded last year, and we did kick that work off back in June of 2024. We've made steady progress since. What you're seeing on the screen is from our initial first article inspection testing at the vendor's facility for the new railroad TVMs. So this, of course, will be a Metro North device. And then the construction schedule is laid out on the slide here. Again, we conducted our first article inspection testing back in December of last year. That passed. We are continuing with the software development. We expect that to wrap up in a few short months here. And that will bring us to our factory acceptance test in May and June of this year, which will ultimately lead to a pilot program at both Metro North and Long Island Railroad. We are on track to do that by June of this year, which shortly thereafter would be the start of full-fledged production installation. Upgrades to the train time application are ongoing behind the scenes as we roll out the physical work. And lastly, concluding with confirmation that both programs, both the New York City Transit program and the Railroad program, are on track and on budget. We expect to hit substantial completion for New York City Transit in the fourth quarter of this year, and the public-facing components of the railroad work to be complete in the second quarter of 2026. So the work is moving steadily along. There's been quite a lot done over the last year, and we look forward to hitting our targets.
Okay.
Chair,
Yeah, please.
if I may, just by way of wrap up in the transit, just 2 points. One is, as the board knows, C&D was tasked with, taking over the finalizing the delivery of Omni last year, and as you can see, we've been able to put together a great organization. It's really a two-headed organization. Tim Kaiser running the delivery, and then Amy Linden, who runs Omni Operations and Services, and is, finding a myriad of ways to make this complicated system work within all of the different systems that we run here at the MTA. And both of them, as you can see by the slide that we care about most at C&D, are doing a great job. The project is on time and it's on budget. The second thing I wanted to say is just, it's the card vending machine rollout is very exciting, and just because of a little misinformation from the podium, despite the fact that we just started installing these, and they are new technology within our system, they are available 98% of the time. And in terms of cash collection, they are available. They are twice as reliable as the MetroCard vending machines that we're removing from the system, and that's what really matters. Is that it's cash collection that those are there for folks that really don't have any alternative other than to buy an OmniCard at that terminal. So again, 98% availability and twice the reliability for cash in the MetroCard vending machines in the early stages of this. So it's a great success.
And not. Anyone who's been out in the system, as our board members are, knows that probably the most important thing, it's really simple, which is you walk up to a line of people standing at a MetroCard machine and go, "Hey, do you got a tap-and-go credit card?" And they say, "Really?" So that's why that station agent interaction that was on one of the slides is so important, because in many cases, people just need to be educated that they can use their Google wallet, their Apple wallet, these online payment options, as well as just a routine, regular tap-and-go credit card, which they're accustomed to using for other purposes. So that's one of the reasons that we can actually have fewer Omni card vending machines than MetroCard vending machines, because in the end, a huge proportion, maybe 70, 80+% of our riders are going to actually not use a physical Omni card. They'll be using one of the other payment options. So this is why what you just saw today is why we moved this into a mega project at C&D. You're seeing the execution that we got out of that. So compliments to Jamie and the entire team. Is the IEC going to comment on this at this moment? All right, let's hear from the IEC, and then we'll have board questions and comments.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Suresh Payati, Program Director of the IEC, and I will provide a brief update on the IEC's monitoring responsibility for C&D's Omni project. Since our last report in May 2024, the Omni project continues to progress. So far, 670 Omni vending machines are in service across 325 stations. The remaining 310 vending machines will be installed by the third quarter of 2025. Students and reduced fare customers have been issued Omni cards. The distribution of paratransit and fare fares Omni cards is underway and is expected to be completed by the fourth quarter of 2025. After completing the installation of Omni vending machines and distributing the remaining Omni cards, the Omni system will be in full beneficial use for all paying New York City Transit customers. In addition, two affiliates, the Westchester B Line and Nassau Intercounty Express Bus, are in the process of implementing Omni by the fourth quarter of 2025. The IEC's review indicates that the current budget is sufficient for completing the Omni project. The contractor schedule, approved by C&D, forecasts substantial completion in December 2025. The IEC agrees that the substantial completion is achievable. However, there is a risk that it could be delayed until the second quarter of 2026. This is because substantial completion is contingent upon the MTA's approval of Cubic's final revenue service acceptance testing. This testing consists of a 90 consecutive day period during which all Omni taps must be validated on the back end and all program elements must meet the contract's performance requirements. The risk is primarily due to Cubic's staffing challenges. As cited by the MTA, existing software defects and the time needed to address issues uncovered during initial testing and subsequent validation testing. Additional details of the risk and concerns are in the CPC book. This concludes the IEC's update on Omni.
So just for clarification's sake, you're identifying a risk that Cubic will not get all their software cleaned up to the satisfaction of the client, C&D, by the end of the year. But we're not giving up, right, Jamie? We're going to keep pressuring them to make good, right?
We never give up, and the key thing is the functionality of Omni is getting put into place, and it's going to be put in place by the end of the year. What we need from this contractor is to leave us at the end with a system that can scale up and continue to operate at the massive scale that we're going to achieve once the additional 1/3 of riders are tapping into Omni. And that's the thing that, if it requires changes to the architecture that push off the final software testing, we're going to find a way to figure that out so that we get the product that we can live with for good. But the key thing is we will have the functionality for our customers this year.
And we'll drag the contractor over the finish line on time, right?
We will.
Right?
Yes, we will.
Right. I mean, that's the way it works, right? You got to drag
Yes.
them over the finish line. This contractor especially. Okay. Any questions or comments? Hayden Mahaltzis.
So let's go back to, where's my friend? Where is she? Okay. So I just asked, when you were making your presentation, I was paying attention, but I asked Shani for a quick question. So this is great. Happy that we're getting everything up and running. But my thought was the tourists that come to New York, right? So I asked Shanifa, what are you going to do? She said to me, we're going to work with NYC and Company. But, not many people, not that they don't listen to NYC and Company, but how are we, the one-time New Yorker, or the one-time rider of the system, whether it's a tourist or someone from out of, coming in for the day, and anyway.
So, outside of working with, NYC and Co., as well as the tourism board, we are really amplifying our customer messaging and ads at transit hubs, at airports and high crossing places. Again, as what the chairman mentioned earlier, nothing is more fruitful than having the station agent going out and, when they see these long lines and engaging these customers with suitcases and letting them know that they are, they're not losing or saving any money. It's the same fare by taking out their credit cards and tapping and going.
It's could be the woman who's, woman, the person who's coming in to spend the day in the city that doesn't really, do it quite
It's
so.
going to be a lot of emphasis on multilingual signage as well, especially in the next 6 months to a year when people are getting familiar. But it also raises the question, because of the Port Authority, because the JFK air train is such a big entry point, they've got a sort of a slightly jury-rigged Omni over there now. Jamie, what's the situation with, we talked about Beeline and NICE, what about the other affiliates, Roosevelt Island, JFK, Port Authority, and so on?
Roosevelt Island is up and running on the tram, and we got JFK. We worked with the Port Authority. We got JFK up and running with Tap and Go. So that's done. Just like with our affiliates in the bus systems, they need to sign a separate contract with the vendor. It's their system, and to get the gates and other equipment. And I understand the Port Authority is in the process of doing that, but that's on them. They have to get that done so that they'll have new gates in place. But we've ensured that the system is available to them, and people are using it now at JFK, at Jamaica.
Okay. I think Mr. Chu is next, and
One to start.
Randy and Blanca Lopez.
I think Demetrius's likeness should be on all the physical Omni cards because it's just that good of a likeness. So I just want to take a moment to talk about what a remarkable place we're in. You know, when I joined the board, as many of us did in a big group, we were still in the aftermath of COVID, and we had to solve some major budget issues. And I, too, joined the board carrying many of the preconceived notions, the ongoing narratives about the MTA, you know, the wastefulness, the incompetence, the things that people still like to throw at us. But so I think it's really important. We've talked about it today, where we have progress, you know, on our crime statistics, you know, on fare evasion. These are all things that when we did get our levelized budget from the state and the governor and the legislature helped them to step up to recognize what an important service we deliver. We said we were going to deliver those things. We also said we were going to deliver efficiency, you know, which has been delivered. The fact that we're here after dealing with all of these obstacles and hurdles and challenges and modernizing the system, you know, this is a time where, historically, and not just historically, in many parts of the country, other agencies, not just transit agencies, all sorts of public agencies have had to retract service or step back or continue to just muscle along with what they're working with. You know, we've not only been able to keep our budget, you know, relatively, you know, flat while adding service, but also modernizing. It's a remarkable place to be. And I think it's a particularly timely message as we wait with bated breath what comes out of with Albany, and for the federal government for that matter. You know, my fellow board member, Mr. Zuckerman, asked, you know, what's the benchmark? What's the benchmark for paid ridership on buses? And the truth is, you know, this system has always been the benchmark, right? We're congestion pricing now. If it was a big deal for us to get congestion pricing because it opened the way for others to get congestion pricing. So I think this is an important time as ever, and this is a great example of why we need to get supported by Albany and the federal government, despite politics. Say what you need to do what you need to do politically, but the fact is that this system, the way we've moved forward, the way this team and the staff has moved everyone forward from the cleaners on the subway to those who sit down the hallway from you, Jano, we have set the tone not just for New York coming back, but for the way things should be done. So, you know, bravo to you, because the easiest thing in the world would for us to going backwards, and we are moving forward, and that's a great testament to all the work you're doing.
Thank you. That's Mr. Glucksman beat that.
I can't. Hard act to follow. Great presentation. I'm glad that everything is working so far. OmniCard, people who want to buy Metro cards and there's no machine, do they have to pay for the OmniCard?
Yeah, just like with MetroCard, there is a $1 fee for OmniCards. Yeah, it's a promotional price to get them now.
Yeah, I also encourage people when I see big lines too, and I never got a negative response, always a thumbs up and a thank you. The other thing is, I'm a little confused about how the Omni is going to affect Metro North and Long Island Railroad. Is there going to be a physical card they're going to pay every month if they have a monthly ticket or whatever? What?
Right, so Metro North and Long Island customers will continue to buy tickets at the new modern vending machines you just saw a picture of, and on Train Time. And in the future, last year we described that Train Time will have like your New York City Transit trip history built into it. There'll be an integrated digital account for railroad customers.
I just want to add to that, Randy. Just remember, you bought 70% of the people are purchasing tickets through their phones through the Train Time app. You can take that same phone, which is the same functionality, and use it to pay at the subway gate. So you have the same functionality, right? So, you know, and I think we're working on a single log-on to help it more seamless. So it's the same functionality.
Anybody else wishing to be heard? I'm sorry, Ms. Lopez, Ms. Sarn.
Just a quick question, and hopefully I didn't miss it. when it comes to assisting our customers who are paratransit riders, are there any additional steps that you are taking or that the team is taking to address that transitioning onto Omni?
Yes, absolutely. So the paratransit customers are receiving an Omni card and can load value into that Omni account online. But that Omni card for those who receive zero fare trips in the New York City transit environment provides that same functionality to them. Yeah. So that's all done through the paratransit office and with that high-touch customer service.
Ms. Soren.
I have two questions. One is you mentioned about working with bids to educate businesses. What happens to all the commercial corridors that don't have bids? Have you reached out to chambers like ourselves, since we touch thousands of businesses across and for areas that don't? I'm just curious how they're being educated or having the opportunity to also do the Omni sales.
Absolutely, and we would welcome, we could give you more detailed follow-up on this, but through the government and community relations team over the last 2 years, we've been working with elected officials, and I say BID is kind of the umbrella moniker for the relationships with local businesses in neighborhoods around the 5 boroughs. But this has been a huge effort, and we actually have gone door to door talking to small business owners who sell some of our best MetroCard retail partners and helping them with sort of a white glove onboarding to sell Omni. It's been very well received.
So I'll suggest chambers also will assist you any way possible. Then my second question is, what would be the difference between a virtual card and using your phone for the tap and go? It almost seems like redundant. I'm not sure.
Yeah, this is I'm calling it a deep cut question because it is getting into the minutia, but it's an important distinction. So if you're tapping your virtual wallet, that is your credit card paying per transaction. If you're tapping an Omni virtual card, that is, you have loaded value onto that Omni virtual card, and your transaction with your credit card happens just when you load the value. So you're tapping down just a stored value card. It's the same process mechanically and financially for you as loading a physical card, but you don't have to carry another thing. You just tap it on your phone. So that's what's coming out soon. I guess in practice, you'll not see $290 on your credit card bill, but you'll just see the amount of value you load.
Maybe another way to simplify is if you look in your Apple Wallet, you can see you can put a WMATA card on there. You can put, there's a few other systems. There's a number of Asian systems, Clipper card. So Omni will be one of those.
Anybody else? Important point that I think we need to keep people focused on is there are going to be a lot of spare Metro cards coming out of the woodwork, right? Everyone's going to find 5 of them somewhere in their sock drawer or whatever. Shanifa's got a great customer service network at these 15, now 16 customer service centers. And we're talking about growing that so that it's even easier just to go to a convenience station in your borough, in somewhere in your area, and trade in whatever value you still have on Metro cards to get it all onto your new Omni system. That's going to be part of this transition, is making that as easy as possible. Obviously, we'll do it at Stone Street down here, but one of the reasons we set up the customer service center network was so these kinds of small transactions did not require a trip to Manhattan. And that's another small piece of this whole puzzle. Amazing work, amazing team, and we're ready to do a transition. There was hysteria. When I'm old enough to remember when the token went out, and there was mass hysteria. We have done this successfully enough that people are getting ready. We're going to have some folks we need to move along, but most people have already made the transition. It's picking up steam, so well done. I think we're going to move to, unless there are further comments, we're going to move to the routine business at this point. Hearing none, let's move on to the administrative actions. Capital procurements, Mr. Iceland.
Thank you, Chair. This month, the Construction and Development package includes 5 procurement actions totaling $27.2 million. The first item seeks approval to award a publicly advertised and competitively solicited contract in the amount of $6.4 million to Atlas ATC Engineering, Inc. to provide special inspection and testing services in support of C&D projects. The next item seeks approval of a new award in the amount of $4.4 million to Nordic Signals Consulting APS, of also a publicly advertised and competitively solicited contract to provide a technical and program oversight team with specialized knowledge in communications-based train control system, that's CBTC, to support the deployment of CBTC across the New York City subway system. The third item is a modification totaling $7.7 million to the contract with Cubic Transportation Systems for the Omni New Fare Payment System. This mod will provide for several software enhancements to the existing point-of-sale network and reduce fare and paratransit functions, and improve customer-facing applications and system interfaces. This mod includes technical support for these enhancements through July of 2030, and then 2 5-year options exercisable at MTA's discretion to extend the technical support for another 10 years. The next item is a ratification of a modification in the amount of $5.75 million to a contract with Siemens Industry to provide a database validation tool, a cloud-based automatic train supervision expandability tool. These tools will support the ongoing expansion of CBTC across the New York City transit system, as well as changes to the car-borne controller software to improve CBTC system performance and reliability. And the last item is a ratification of a modification in the amount of $2.9 million with Ristani ASW JV to furnish, somebody liked one of those procurements, I guess, to furnish and install temporary structural shoring to the underside portions of the Belt Parkway ramp of the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. The structural shoring will protect against the possibility of falling debris until the ramp is rehabilitated under contract VN84B, which is currently in procurement right now. These items are described in detail in the staff summaries contained within your committee books, and I hereby submit them for your consideration and vote.
Okay, so I'll make the motion. Is there a second, Mr. Chu? Point of clarification, we're acting as a committee to send it forward to the full board. Am I correct, Paige? Okay, so this is a committee action, the committee of the whole, in effect. Clearly, I'll just make one comment. Where clearly, as you get deeper into CBTC, things start to sound more technical and arcane, but that is a good sign. We're doing more CBTC, upgrading the signals. You're going to hear more of that to come. Any comments or questions about any of these procurements for the Capital Program Committee? So I have motion, second, all in favor. Any opposition or abstention? The items are approved. Lizette, do you have an additional procurement report?
Yes. The New York City Transit procurement package includes one item this month, which is a request for the board to formally ratify the declaration of an immediate operating need and approve the award of a 3-month miscellaneous service contract to Sovereign Hydroseal East, Inc. for the injection of cementatious grout into the tunnel subbase underneath the track bed at Essex Street Station. The topography beneath Essex Street Station on the JZ line, located on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, is built above soil that is often waterlogged due to its proximity to the East River. Routine monitoring of this area detected ground settlement, which had the potential to become problematic if not addressed in a timely manner. As a result, an immediate operating need was declared to inject the grout between the tunnel subbase to level the track. A scope of work was developed that included ground coring, injection of the grout under the track, permanent stabilization of 4 support columns, and post-performance monitoring of the area to ensure the work was successful. The total amount for this contract is $1.7 million, which procurement has found to be fair and reasonable. The majority of the work took place between January 18th and 20th, 2025. Monitoring was completed and confirmed the stability of the tunnel sub-base. I submit this procurement for the board approval.
This is why you have really smart people doing inspections, right, Demetrius? This was identified by transit professionals who saw that the very slight downward adjustment in the track profile, correct? And then did some investigations and identified that there was a settlement issue in the geotechnical conditions, and then authorized this work. Any for any other questions? I'll make the motion. Second, please. Second. Thank you, Ms. Mihalcis. Any further questions or comments on this particular item? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition or abstention? The item is approved. Thank you, Lizette. And finally, the March committee minutes from each of the committees have been distributed to board members. Are any of them subject to correction or addition? Mr. Albert.
Yes, on the Transit Committee, I've already spoken to Demetrius about some grammatical and missing words, but in the list of public speakers, David Cufferberg's name is misspelled. It's got 2 P's instead of a P and an F. So with that correction, that's it.
We appreciate the correction. So with that, I'll move the committee meetings. Thank you, Ms. Lopez, for the second. All in favor? All opposition or abstention? The committee minutes are approved. And with that, I can take a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Dr. Rizzo. Second, Ms. Joshi, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.